Hello everyone, my name is Isaiah and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've been following me on TikTok or through shorts, you know I love talking about the Catholic faith. But this is my very first long-form YouTube video, so I want to take the time and introduce myself, share my journey, and explain what this channel is going to be about moving forward. I was raised Protestant and for most of my life thought Catholicism was wrong. I believe myths that Catholics worship Mary, that they believe in salvation by works, and that the church had gone off the rails somewhere along the way. But the more I studied, prayed, and honestly questioned my own assumptions, the more I realized Catholicism wasn't just an option. It was the fullest of the truth Christ gave us. So in this video, I want to do three things: introduce myself, explain why I converted to Catholicism, and let you know what kind of content you'll see on this channel. Let's get right into it. So I dug into history, and this is where everything started to change. I realized that for the first 1500 years of Christianity, there was only one church, the Catholic Church. When the apostles preached and planted churches, they didn't leave behind 50 different versions of Christianity. They left one church with bishops, priests, and deacons. They celebrated the Eucharist, baptism, and anointed the sick, and passed on authority through apostolic succession. When I discovered the writings of the early church fathers, it blew my mind. Guys like Saint Ignatius of Antioch in the year 110 AD, he literally said, wherever the bishop is, there is the Catholic Church. He warns about people who deny the Eucharist is truly the flesh of Christ. This was decades after the apostles. So either the whole entire church fell into heresy immediately, or Catholicism really is the faith handed down by the apostles. From Jesus to the apostles to the bishops and to popes today, convince me Catholicism isn't man-made. It's the church Christ founded. But if I had to name the single biggest reason I converted, it's the Eucharist. As Protestants, communion was always just a symbol, a piece of bread, a little grape juice, done in memory of Jesus. But then I started realizing John chapter 6, Jesus says, "My flesh is true food, my blood is true drink. Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you." When people walked away because it sounded crazy, Jesus didn't call them back to say, "Wait, I meant it symbolically." He doubled down. And then at the Last Supper, he takes bread and wine and says, "This is my body. This is my blood." That's not metaphorical. That's a covenant. And the early Christians believed it literally. St. Paul even says in 1 Corinthians that if you receive the Eucharist unworthily, you're guilty of profaning the body and blood of the Lord. You can't profane bread. You can only profane something holy, something real. When I discovered the Catholic Church believed this for 2,000 years, that every Mass, the bread and wine truly becomes the body and blood of Christ, I knew I couldn't stay outside the church anymore. If that's really Jesus, then there's nowhere else to go. Another huge piece was authority. In Protestantism, if you don't like what your pastors teach you, you just find another church. That's why we have thousands of denominations. But when I read the Bible, I didn't see that model. I saw Jesus founding in one church. In Matthew chapter 16, verse 18, he says to Peter, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it." He gives Peter the keys of the kingdom, the authority to bind and loose things on earth and in heaven. That's leadership. That's visible unity. And he didn't just leave us with men's opinions. He promised that the Holy Spirit would guide the church into all truth. John chapter 16, verse 13. He said the gates of Hades would never prevail against it. That means the church can't simply fall into total corruption, as many Protestants claim. If it did, Jesus' promise would be false. The Catholic Church has carried that authority from the apostles to today, through all good times and bad, keeping the faith intact. So that's a little bit about me and why I became Catholic. But I want this channel to be more than just my story. Here's what you can expect moving forward. Videos breaking down Catholic teachings in a clear and direct way, responses to common myths and objections against Catholicism, deep dives into the scriptures and the church history, practical advice on living out the Catholic faith in today's world. And my goal is simple: to help people see the beauty, whether you're Catholic and want to grow deeper, or you're Protestant and curious about what Catholics really believe. I hope these videos give you clarity and challenge you to think. If you made it this far, I'd love for you to subscribe, because we're just getting started. Drop a comment below, maybe share your own conversion story, or even the objections you still have. I want this channel to be a place for real conversation. At the end of the day, I didn't become Catholic because I wanted to be a new label. I became Catholic because I believe it's the church Jesus founded, the church that holds all the fullness of truth, and I want to spend my life sharing that truth with as many people as possible. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next video.